The cheat code is to incorporate your senses. It needs a beginning, it needs a middle, and it needs an end. Once you begin doing that in a story, you've got the listener. As a creator, whether you're playing yourself, you have to find something that your audience can identify with. And now I'm human to you. You should never, ever start a story without knowing what the ending is. The journey means nothing without the ending.
I want to ask you a little question. Are you a creator who wants to connect with your audience? Come on, raise your hand in the chat to let us know. Or do you find your topic delivery doesn't rise above the sea of sameness? I love that phrase, the sea of sameness. What about adding critical elements of authenticity to your content? I was there too. I want you to let you know you're in good company. And until I realized that story has the power to add all three elements to your content, connection, uniqueness, and authenticity. There's a quote that says, stories are memory aids, they are instruction manuals, and they are moral compasses. I love that.
That's deep.
Come on, memory aids, instruction manuals, and moral compasses. And I've personally done live shows that kind of stated all the facts. I just kind of shared with people, this is how you do it. And those fell flat. They did. Until I learned that me sharing how I arrived at that fact, how I realized that this works, the journey towards me arriving at this conclusion was the secret sauce to ensure not only that was it memorable, but it gave me authenticity and credibility. And so sometimes when you recognize that things are not necessarily going across, like the information is good, but it isn't being received in the way that you want it to be received, the difference maker could be being able to tell a story. But the question for many people is, how do I do that? Because everybody has stories,
Yes,
but there is a way to incorporate and include a story that will have impact. Our topic today is the overlooked way to get more engagement on your content. This is the How It All Works podcast, and I'm your host, Kirk Nugent, and this is my lovely co-host,
Taina Nixon.
And today we have as our guest writing strategist, Denita Jones.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, this is where I'm going to tell my editor to put like a cheering and
DJ
horn.
Fireworks. We need the whole thing. Exactly.
Yeah, that one right there. That one right there. Denita is a credentialed playwright, storyteller, sought-after columnist for several large-scale publications, and holds an MFA from Full Sail University. And so she's going to tell us about story today, y'all.
Yes.
An American writer and cultural anthropologist, Mary Catherine Bateson, is credited with coining this particular phrase. Are you ready? The human species thinks in metaphors and learns through stories.
Oh, I love that.
Thinks in metaphors and learns through stories.
I love that.
It goes on, I guess the note that I put under it, every time I get these quotes, I put a little note, a little blurb. And so it goes on to say, metaphors provide frameworks for thinking, while stories make complex information relatable, memorable, and help people process experiences, learn about others, and make sense of the world. This is a deeply ingrained cognitive and social process that helps us communicate, build connections, and navigate life. Real talk, stories have existed
from time.
Yeah.
Like, beginning of time.
From the beginning
From the garden, there were stories. So stories is definitely one of those cheat codes that we want to get in there. Denita, talk to us a little bit about your experience with stories. Now, I got to say this. Denita used to run a show on Clubhouse where you would give her a line.
Yes. You give me a word.
A word. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was a line. It's not even a phrase.
No,
it was just
one
word.
Yeah.
And then she would give you a story.
Yeah.
I like that.
Am I
That's true. Yeah, no, that's correct.
And then she kind of transitioned it to, YouTube and Clubhouse. But anyway, this was, pandemic time frame somewhere around there.
Yeah.
We had a lot of time.
Oh, Clubhouse. What a time.
Ooh, Clubhouse.
Listen, you said it, and I was just like, wait, did I?
Did I?
Right.
Was I
pour out a little bit.
Clubhouse.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, talk to us a little bit about, your relationship with story.
I would say that storytelling was my very first love. It took me a while to figure that out. when I was younger, apparently my parents did a lot of traveling between different cities. They were musicians, so they would often take their little kid with them.
Yeah, of course.
And according to my mother, I would look out of the window and I would start to tell a story about what I was seeing.
Get out of here.
And unfortunately, as a 3-year-old, it would go on and on and on and on. And everything that I would see would end up in the story.
Nice.
And finally, at one point, I think it was driving my mother crazy because they were educators. And my mother was like, nope, stop. It needs a beginning, it needs a middle, and it needs an end.
This is so good.
And so that was my first lesson in story structure when I was like 3 years old.
Right.
And so that is how I began to realize, like, and she would continuously pour that into me. So by the time I'm like 7 or 8 years old, I'm writing notebooks of stories.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I probably get to around maybe the age of 13 where teenagers are weird and somewhat dumb. And we had an assignment in somewhat dumb.
A little.
Not all the...
Because that matters to the story that I'm telling currently.
Uh-oh.
And there was an assignment in my language arts class where my teacher gave us a picture and we had to write a story based off a picture.
Nice.
You have to understand that I've been writing since I was,
Right.
since I could really realize what that was.
Wow.
So my level of thinking and concept of story is way ahead of your average 13-year-old.
Yeah. They didn't realize. Okay.
So I wrote this incredible story, reading it in front of the class, and they like burst out laughing like it's most hilarious. And it wasn't funny, right?
Oh.
So I was mortified. So I made the decision in that moment, I'm never going to read anything I'm never going to let anybody read what I write.
Wow.
The key is, though, I never stopped writing.
You just didn't want to share it.
Very, very late at night, I would be under my covers and I'm just writing. So there was a point now, by the time I'm like 15, 16 years old, there are just stacks of notebooks that I'm hiding in my closet.
This is crazy.
I go to my sister, who's 7 years older than me. She's going to hate that I say that, but it's true. Love you, Gina.
Love you, Gina.
I would visit her on my spring breaks. I would visit her at her college at Fisk University, which is where I ended up going to undergrad. And one day I go, 1 week I go to visit her for that. And my parents get this great idea. They're like, we're going to redecorate her room, give her all new furniture. We're going to repaint. And in order for my dad to do that.
Why do parents do this?
Right.
I remember this distinctly when I was growing up.
In order for my dad to repaint the room, he's got to take the doors off the closet. So he takes the doors off the closet. He's trying to cover everything up so no paint gets on him. He looks down and he sees like 16, 17 college rule spiral notebooks.
It's not even the little ones.
No, in the corner.
Wow.
And the story goes to my parents, like they sit down and buy like they halfway into this, redecorating thing, they're just sitting on the bed just reading. And they think this stuff is incredible.
Wow.
But they don't tell me. So I come home, the room's redecorated, and my father comes in, he goes, we found your notebooks. You might as well have said to me, we found the drugs. Exactly. We found the drugs that you were hiding in it would have felt better, right?
We found your magazine.
I was mortified.
We found your incognito
we found the stash.
We found the stash.
I was mortified. I mean, I was horrified. And then he goes, you are an incredible writer. And so from that moment on, my parents were just like, oh my God, you're incredible. And the whole time I'm just like,
whatever.
Yeah.
You're saying that because you love me.
Right.
Yeah.
And that went on for years until finally I started working at a school in Ohio. And I got to the point where they needed, they didn't have a lot of money. They wanted me to do a show. I couldn't really rent a show because we didn't have any money. So I decided to write a play with these kids.
Come on.
And I write a play, high school, give it to them. Kids love it. I'm just like, okay, well, they're requiring me to do a play because I'm a theater teacher. First night the play goes up and we have everybody's parents in the audience. The second night, I walk in about to address the audience. I look around. I'm just like, we're sold out.
More people.
That's weird. Third night, they come up to me and they're just like, give us permission to sell more tickets
for another night
for people to get in that night.
Wow.
And they're just like, we're out of seats, but we'll figure something out. And in my head, I'm just like, oh, okay, well, people must really love
community
these
really
kids,
showed
Yeah, these kids,
right?
These kids.
At an intermission during the show, the principal of the high school runs up to me and he's just like, "This is incredible. Who wrote this?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I wrote it."
Me.
And he could not wrap his head around this concept that this whole time I just been sitting on this thing. And it wasn't until I still in that time did not understand the concept. It's just like, oh, even now, you got to catch me on a really good day to admit that I'm a good writer.
Right.
Like, I'm being really honest.
Yeah. People who operate in their superpower generally don't.
Oh my gosh,
They're just
no.
Oh yeah, well, I just put a little something together.
So I would deny.
You killed that.
I get through Full Sail, and that degree program was absolutely incredible for me. Like I will sing its praises to this day.
Awesome.
And I get to the graduation, and I'm standing waiting for them to call my name to go up on stage. And I'm standing there and they announce my name, and at Full Sail at graduation, they put your full name, full government name on this giant video wall.
Okay.
And if you rank anything, they put it underneath your name.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there and I'm just like really, really excited. And one of my friends before me walks in front of me, and they announce, her name, and then right underneath she's valedictorian, and we are like screaming in the line, like, cause we had so much fun together. We and then they're just like, Denita Jones, salutatorian, and I was like, what?
I love that this is a surprise to everybody.
Right?
They don't tell you.
No, they don't tell you. And so I go and and what happens is that when you go on stage, the receiving line is all of your professors. And because it's an online program, it's the first time you're meeting them in person.
Right.
So every professor is hugging me and they're just like, "My God, I've been waiting to meet you.
Wow.
You're incredible." And then I had found out that I got the most likely to succeed award that the professors have to vote on.
Wow.
So I'm sitting at the end of graduation, just kind of like wrapping everything around, and hashtag the boyfriend comes up to me, my husband, and he said, "Do you believe us now?" That is my relationship with storytelling.
Wow.
Listen, let me just pause here to say there is in public speaker school there was a thing that they talked about in terms of storytelling to catch attention right at the beginning of a speech, and the key performance indicator, right, is when somebody in the audience looks up from whatever they're doing. That's one indicator. When they put down what they're doing to pay attention, that's a second indicator. But the coup de grace, the chef's kiss, is when they lean in.
Yes.
And I'm certain that several of you, while she was telling that story,
because I was thinking, I was like, this is so like meta, because she's telling us a story about the story, and it's
we're
so
in
good, and we're like, oh, that's all we get it. As she's telling the story, we're like, oh, this is why they're so into her story, because we're really into this story.
We're like fully
engaged.
So what happened next?
Right.
Don't stop there.
Yeah.
But I do love, you started with, I think, one of the most critical pieces for those who want to infuse story into their content. Got to have a start.
You got to have a start.
You got to have a middle. You got to have an end.
Yeah.
Now, let me say, so that in and of itself is really good. But talk a little bit about like the language or...
Oh, yeah.
Because even as you're sharing this story, if we could use this story as an example, there is, you kind of we get a chance to kind of see it.
Yeah.
Almost.
Right.
You're almost painting a word picture.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that, because again, like I said, for the content creator who may not be a storyteller, this may not be a part of their normal, regular skill set. They've got stories, but how do they deliver it with the same kind of power that you just did?
So when I'm coaching clients, I tell them every time, because people will come to me all the time and be like, "Hey, can you write this for me?"
Right.
My knee-jerk reaction would be like, "No, you are the only person that can write your story.
Right.
Right? And I give them the cheat code like I'm about to give you guys. And it sounds really simple, and it really is.
Okay.
And the cheat code, the language is right. The language of storytelling is to incorporate your senses. If you can incorporate 4 out of the 5 senses, I've got you.
Okay.
4 out of the 5.
4 out of the 5. And it doesn't matter which 4.
Get your notepad out, okay? Yeah.
So watch this. So if I am going to tell a story, and stories are everywhere, you know, and that's the beauty. Like stories are everywhere.
It's literally everywhere.
The goal is, and in theater we do this, it's called that sensory recall.
Right.
The goal is to pull out of my reader or my listener something that they can associate with their own memory. Right. So if I say, you know, I arrived at Kirk's house and it reminded me of a coffee house in Brooklyn. Well, I've just incorporated your sense of smell, for other people, your sense of taste, because in their head, what does coffee smell like?
Right.
What is, you know, I'm from Brooklyn. I remember that.
That's what I was going to say. But then also there's
so immediately you're hooked in that story because there's something in there. Even if you're not from Brooklyn, you've been to a coffee house.
Correct. And it doesn't even take much time.
That was
in that moment,
really quick.
Right.
Boom. Yeah.
And what the beauty of that is that people don't realize that once you incorporate a sense, it automatically kind of steers your audience in the direction you want to go.
Right.
So case in point, if you've ever been to Disney World, you'll know that the Magic Kingdom actually pumps artificial smells through the ground.
Wow.
So if you look at it, they pump, it's like cinnamon rolls and popcorn, because most people associate sugar and popcorn with childhood.
Oh my
So when you're walking down Main Street, you are fully engaged as a child.
Yep.
Or I'll put it like this. Movie popcorn has a specific smell.
Yeah, it does.
Right? Anywhere else, it is a terrible smell.
Yeah.
But when you are seated with a bunch of people and in front of a big screen, it locks you into what you're going to watch.
Oh my word.
Your words have to do the same
Sensory.
thing. So you have to incorporate the people's senses. Wow. What did you see?
Yeah.
What did it look like? So in the beginning, in the story, I tell you that I'm riding in the back seat, looking out of the window. Well, every kid knows what that looks like, right? So automatically, I'm telling you what I see. I tell you what I heard my mother telling me, and little things like that. What did it feel like? If you describe texture, once you begin doing that in a story, you've got the listener, you've got the reader.
And I want to say, it's important to choose your words intentionally.
Yes.
Because if we were just talking coffee, you could have said it reminded me of like the smell of Folgers in my childhood home. Yeah. Right. But that would evoke a completely different idea versus a coffee house in Brooklyn. You're thinking more sleek or more like city urban, you know, type of environment. So you could be talking about the same two things, but the way that, or the same idea around coffee, but the way that you have crafted the word and like the scene evokes a different feeling.
You're absolutely right. And the reason why, especially in storytelling, if I were going to use that, the coffee house in Brooklyn, I use that because most of the time coffee houses are very subdued and they're relaxed.
Yeah, I was going to say
Whereas
the same.
coffee at home, oftentimes people associate it with rushing because it's morning and everybody's trying to get ready.
Exactly.
So I don't want you to have a rushing feeling.
Right.
I want you to have a relaxed feeling.
Yes.
I want you to hear the music that's playing over the speakers.
Right.
That's the difference.
Exactly.
And you can put people in those spaces just by the words that you choose. Another thing that I noticed from what you said is you know, because the story also has a major component of authenticity as well. And you shared what your mom said to you, have a start, have a middle, have an end. You could have said those 3 things as a tip for us today, and we'd have received it. But the fact that you put yourself in the student's position in your story, and you were given that information, and now you're just sharing with our audience what your mom told you that has served you all these years. There's a authenticity that you can't buy. Right? So now it's like, I'm listening to you, but I'm also listening to the wisdom of the elders. You know what I'm saying?
But
So
you also said earlier, like there's something more memorable about a narrative versus just instruction.
So true.
So I always said that, like, I personally believe that I learned better in school when it was framed through a narrative. So I did really well English, writing. But then math they didn't give us nothing. Even the little stories, Johnny had 5 apples. Okay, but where did he get them from?
Right,
were they green or were they red? Like, give me something.
Come on.
You know?
That is so good.
And it's funny that I find a lot of times too, when I was a professor and I would try to figure out where a lot of my students were, and I categorized them in different categories. And I said, I would have my creatives, my logistics, and my absolutes, right? What would happen and how I'd figure that out is that I would give this assignment called the room assignment. And the room assignment, I would tell them, money is no object, imagination, have fun. Whatever. Describe to me your perfect room. Well, my creatives would take me on this journey. Oh my gosh, they would take me on the journey, and the rooms would have no walls, and they would have no floors, and the sky would be the ceiling, and there would be no limits. My logistics would ensure that they had provisions. So like, the room is big, but there are walls and there are doors, and also a refrigerator and a TV, right?
Furniture.
My absolutes is like, there's 4 walls.
Right.
There's 1 door.
It's a bullet point.
Right. It's just like, this is what you get. And so I realized in that moment, the reason why I did that exercise, number 1, I wanted to know how many I had in each class. But number 2, I was like, I have to figure out how to get my absolute to come slightly out of this, because in a theater class, I'm going to drive you nuts.
Right.
Right. Because I'm more of the person that's telling the story. The logistic, I completely understand them because I can actually talk, but that absolute, you want to know when, where, how, why.
My word.
So, but essentially that's what storytelling is.
It is important to know.
So I'm going to take my absolute and say, I'm going to give you all of that.
Yeah.
But let's figure out how to blossom that out a little bit. Let's figure out how to blossom that out.
Right.
My absolutes are incredible at math.
Right.
My creatives are just like, where did the apples come from?
Right. All off topic.
Where are the apples? Where did they come from? How do we get there?
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Oh my word. So we've given some of the story structure. We're talking about, kind of setting the scene, using descriptive terms and words. And it doesn't have to be very long, but it just needs to be very intentional.
Yeah.
And I do think that there is something in the rhythm of being able to tell a story more than once.
Yes.
Because you get a sense of your cadence, your pacing, all those things. But now let's kind of talk about characters. Now characters for most content creators, there's this what character am I creating? I mean, especially for me, like who does somewhat technical content, how to stream, there's StreamYard, Ecamm, BeLive, Melanat, whatever. But there's still a character there.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And so talk to us a little bit about how we would incorporate that aspect into our content.
In storytelling, in order to get people on the side of your central character, right? Which is your main character. Now, we as storytellers have gotten away from the term protagonist, because that makes it sound like, oh, this is the hero of the story.
Got you.
Whereas people are a little bit more complex than that.
Correct.
Absolutely.
However,
because there's many
you're right.
non-heroes that I'm like rooting for.
Right. And antagonists oftentimes make you think, oh, the villain. And so right now we're using phrases central character, oppositional character, right? But your central character needs to be empathetic to your audience. Like your audience needs to be able to identify something inside of them that they go, oh, that's me. Right.
This is the part.
So let's go back to the first part of the story, the beginning, when I described to you my dad finding these notebooks.
Oh God.
And I immediately said, he might as well have found the drugs.
Correct.
Yeah.
Might as well have found the magazine. Might as well have found the stash.
Yeah. And people are just filling in the
blanks.
blanks.
People are just like, oh my gosh, when my parents found my diary, like,
diary,
right?
Exactly.
Well, immediately you're like, oh, Denita, I was there, man.
Yeah.
Like that. Now, they might not have found your notebooks.
Right.
But something, a parent found something in your room. Right? And so right there, you're just like, oh, that feeling that I had. And now I'm human to you.
Now I'm human.
Yes.
Right? As a creator, whether you're playing yourself, you have to find something that your audience can identify with. You have to create that character, right? In the story, my father was the oppositional character. So the oppositional character is essentially the character that stands in the way of the central character's goal.
Right.
What is the central character's goal? To keep my stories hidden.
That's right.
So that nobody will find them.
Yeah.
The oppositional character keeps the main character from the goal.
Right.
He found the story.
Right.
And he was successful eventually.
Right.
Yes.
And he wasn't a villain. Like
he wasn't the villain.
He was doing
Just
something for his child because he cared about his child.
Yeah.
He comes upon this, and then they want to encourage you.
And
People
people can relate with that.
As well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. And what's funny is that from his perspective, I'm the oppositional character.
Absolutely.
Right?
Because the goal is clearly not to keep the books.
Right.
Yeah.
We got to get these books out here, and she's tripping.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
For years.
Yeah.
Right? So your goal is that
good.
if you are the central character, you got to figure out a way for your audience to relate who you are. If you can think of a movie that you've seen where the main character was just insufferable, and there becomes a point where you're literally rooting for the bad guy.
Yes.
Like, I hope this main character gets what they deserve.
Literally.
That's when you've lost your audience.
Wow.
If your audience cannot identify with something inside of the main character, you've lost them.
Yes.
And then you begin to think, well, how come nobody's taking care of my content? Well, and so shout out to you. I tell you all the time, I love when Kurt gets on and he's telling people about the different stuff to do and he makes a mistake. Or he can't figure out a problem. And he's been fully like, I don't know what's going on here, guys.
Right.
Let me figure that. Oh, wait, that wasn't it either.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's so human.
Listen, let's build it in front of everybody.
Right.
But my whole thing is this dude, I consider him the expert.
Right.
And he made a mistake and he's like, oh well. And I'm like, well, if he's making a mistake in this, then it's okay for me to not know what to do.
Exactly.
And so when you are on your content, you can't be so high above your audience and so untouchable and so godlike that they're just like, well, I mean, I like it, but at the same time, like I can't
relate
compete
to
this. I can't relate to this.
Yeah. That's gold. That's gold. There's a client of mine. She's a finance expert, and we've been doing content for quite a while, and just couldn't find the rhythm of what to share, how to begin her videos that would really grab attention. So she was guesting on somebody else's podcast, and you know how they do that thing at the end was like, just share with folks, a little bit at the very. I mean, they had this really cool conversation, but at the very end, we're like just getting ready to close. They said to her, share with folks a little bit about you and how they can access whatever it is you have. And she's like, because of the limited time she had, because I asked her afterwards, why did she say it that way? She's like, they gave me a small amount of time, and I figured I would just share it in this way. So she just blurts out, I am a 45-year-old woman, and I was $750,000 in credit card debt. And today I'm a millionaire, and I feel God has called me to share with other women how they can do the same. The chat blew up.
Of course.
And people were just like, oh, how do I work with her? How do I work with her? How do I work with her? So I'm in my mind like, we're starting every video
exactly
from here on out.
Yes.
Just like that.
With a version of that. And let me tell you, her content has...
Yes. Why? Because you're a human.
You're
now.
human.
Like
you're human.
I can't talk to the millionaire. I can talk to the person
exactly.
that was in debt.
The person who is in debt doesn't want to talk. They don't need to only see you in this current.
Correct.
They need to know that you were where they are. Probably even worse. Because in many cases, people are like, well, I didn't have that much.
Exactly. Now you made it feel like
I'm not that bad.
I only got 300,000.
Let me tell you why else I love that.
Yeah.
Because, oh my gosh, there's a story and everything. So she gave you and the audience her inciting incident. Right? Like this was the incident that was just like, she was in this thing and she was just like, so in storytelling, you're in your ordinary world, right? This is part of like the hero's journey, right? You're like, everybody's just like, Denita, how come you can predict movies? And I'll tell them because there's a pattern in every movie. Yeah. Every good movie follows the exact same pattern, right? And so there you have your hero that's in their ordinary world, right? This is the world they live in every day. And then something happens to that hero, that central character, that forces them into their journey. And they have to make this decision like, am I going to go on the journey or I'm going to stay in my ordinary world?
Wow.
So your client was just like, I was 45 years old, or I used to be a $750,000 in debt. That was the inciting incident.
Exactly.
And she had the choice on whether she was going to go on the journey to fix it or whether she was going to stay in her ordinary world.
Absolutely.
Right. And once the inciting incident is introduced to the character, that's when the story begins.
Wow. Right.
So her story began
right there.
Right.
And then she just catapulted us to the end.
Absolutely. Right. And that's the beauty of that. She was just like, this is the beginning of the journey and this is where I am now. That's what's incredible about that.
Good.
I say this all the time, and sounds simple, but I think it still bears repeating, especially in light of the story you just told us, is that authenticity will take you so far.
Yes.
Authenticity is like everything.
It's everything.
Right? Because all of us have a story. All of us have flaws.
Yes.
All of us have inciting incidents.
Yes.
Like everybody has that, right? It's just, it looks differently for different people. It attracts different people. So it's like, you don't need to craft your story after somebody else's.
No.
You actually need to tell your story exactly how it is, really and truly, who you are, with intentionality, but with authenticity, because it will call to the people who see themselves in that story.
Absolutely.
So that was just her being extremely authentic.
I mean, really.
And concise with it.
Yeah.
And it worked. That's perfection.
Man.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, I'm sitting on the sidelines watching like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. So every video from now on, we're a version of that. And let me tell you, her stuff is just kind of taken off. I do want to, so for the long form creators, all right, people who do content 8 to 12 minutes, somewhere in that neighborhood, people who do content like this format where it's podcasts and you want to infuse stories. I think we've kind of covered those, but how could you incorporate into short form content, to reels, shorts? I mean, we've seen skits, different kinds of different types of content. It's still very much story. I still think that, some of the principles that we shared, beginning, middle, end, have a resolution. I do. So I want to talk about resolution, but last. But I do. What would you say to the short form creator who wants to infuse content in there? How can you relay multiple messages layered in 90 seconds, essentially?
The content is in the narrative, right? So you in 90 seconds just conveyed this client story to us.
Yes, it's true.
And how it worked.
Boom. Yeah.
And the goal of the story was to show us how this client went from not really having that, engaging content to it shooting off.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true.
And so you as a creator have to go into every single moment and say, what is the goal? For this specific thing.
That's good.
People think that that's not even, it happens in movies all the time. Like, what is the goal of this plot? What is the goal of this story? What is the goal of your content? What is end game? What are you trying to do? Right? Yeah. If I'm writing a horror movie and my goal is to make sure that I scare my audience, I'm going to concentrate less on the romantic characters that fall in love. Right? Because nobody cares when you're trying to frighten a person.
Exactly.
If you walk out of a horror movie thinking, oh my God, that was the greatest love story ever.
We failed.
I failed.
Exactly.
Right? Same as if you walk out of a romantic comedy and you're with heart palpitations.
Right.
Because there were jump scares, I failed.
Yeah.
What is the goal?
What is the goal?
What are you trying to convey?
Yeah, and when you have shorter form content, you really need to be focused on what that goal is, even that much more profoundly. So,
and you also need to figure out who your audience is.
That's good,
right? So, like, my sister, I talk about her all the time. She's a physician. One of the things my mother, which I love, when she would like quiz my sister on different things when she was in medical school, and Gina, she would say, "Oh, tell me what a blank is," and Gina would describe it with all of these medical terms, right? And my mother would sit there and she would listen, and finally my mom would say, "Tell me like I'm in the second grade."
Wow.
And so she would force my sister,
who's the audience,
to describe the same medical condition as if she was talking to a 7-year-old.
Right.
Now, the beauty of that is now as a physician, board certified physician, patients love my sister because when she walks into a room and says, I have to tell you something, she's breaking this thing down. So even a child could understand it, which makes her more relatable as a physician. So who is your audience?
Exactly. As a health communicator, that's my background. Yeah. Most Americans are not reading above a 3rd grade literacy level.
That's good for us as creators.
You need to be able to operate at that literacy level in order for them to even know what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
To help them.
For sure. So now you, as a content creator, who is your audience?
Yes.
If you're talking to a bunch of techies, have at all of the letters and numbers and the QR 579.
Exactly. There's M7B
with a 22 abbreviations with a 22 milliliter lens. Like talk that, friend. Talk it, right?
Perfect. Milliliter. No.
You're talking to a writer, theater creator. That means
nobody knows what you're talking about.
Ooh.
Right? So who is my audience?
Yeah.
Really identify that. Like there are ways you can go into your, whatevers. Yeah. I don't even know what this called, but you can go into your whatevers and say, who am I actually speaking to? Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you have a bunch of teenagers as an audience, all of your mom and dad metaphors, don't use that.
Don't use that. That's not the story.
Right? Those are not the story. They're not going to be able to identify with them. Correct. But if you have a bunch of moms that are at home with their kids, have at all the stay-at-home mom scenarios, right? You see what I'm saying? So you have to figure out what is the goal and who am I talking to?
Exactly.
That's good. And that, again, that's across the board. Short form, long form, in the middle, doesn't matter. Let's talk about resolution. I want to land there kind of because there are so many. I can tell you, this is not one I have good examples for. This is one I have bad examples for. When the video's done and you're like,
we're still going.
But what happened to you left? Where's the thing? Well, you told us the story and we never got the.
Left us hanging.
You left us hanging, and then you go to another video and another video, and they don't talk about that thing. It's like you left me hanging. So to share with us a little bit. I mean, this is the practice of ending a story.
Yeah, you should never, ever start a story without knowing what the ending is.
Mercy.
I mean, period.
Mercy.
I have stopped writers in their tracks because whenever I have clients come to me and they're doing their own writing, the first question I ask, I was like, how are you going to end this? And if they can't tell me, they can't start writing.
Right.
Wow.
I liken it like this. This is one of my favorite moments.
This is kind of like what we talked about with the whole, start with end in mind, but also like that you have the title.
I was just thinking that. You have the title. Yes. And so this is the transformation I'm trying to get to by the end of this 90 seconds, 60 seconds. You have to start with that in mind so that you know how to end it.
That's gold.
That is how our world is set up. And this is what people don't understand. I attended a writing conference years ago in upstate New York. And back in the day, Uber, for whatever reason, had this random feature where you could call an Uber driver without necessarily giving them the destination. They immediately abandoned it, right? Because it's ludicrous.
Yeah, what's it?
Right? It's ludicrous.
I would not take that fare.
Exactly.
My word.
Right? Because you don't know where you're going.
You don't know where you're going.
Exactly.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So what would happen is that you can't call any kind of what do you call it? Call driver. I don't know what they call it. Hire driver. They will not take the fare until you tell them where the drive is going to end. Right? Because I need to know what route I need to take.
Right.
Yeah. I need to know if I have to figure in traffic. You have to do the same thing with storytelling.
Wow.
If you asked me at the very beginning, you were just like, what is my relationship to storytelling? I knew I was going to end on the fact that #the boyfriend said to me, do you believe us now?
Right. Yeah.
In order for me to get there, though, I had to take you on the journey of all of the doubts and fears.
Correct.
Right.
So
Correct.
If I wasn't going to end there, if I was just going to end with the fact that, I have multiple clients, some stuff I would have skipped over because it wasn't necessary to the plot. And what happens is that you have people that are trying to give you, the journey means nothing without the ending.
Correct.
Like, who cares about what we went through? I want to know I want to know what happened when you got to the end, right? How many of us have watched movies and the movie has ended in this moment? Yeah. And you're just like, what? Right?
Yeah, I'm still salty for Game of Thrones.
Right? Exactly, right? Or The Sopranos, right? That is a controversial ending to a series because nobody knows what happened next. Yeah. And as fun as that may seem, it's actually not okay to string your audience along.
It's extremely dissatisfying.
Even Marvel with, I can't remember which one it was, but the one where the audience, like they left us with everybody disappearing, spoiler alert, right? Yeah. The very next movie.
Avengers.
Yeah, Avengers. Yeah. It wasn't Endgame. Endgame
was the end.
Yeah, the one before that.
The one before that.
Yeah, they're going to be like blowing us up in the chat.
I know.
The very next movie they ended that story.
Oh, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
If they had taken us for 3 or 4 more movies, that's one of the reasons why people actually really can't get into soap operas.
Yes.
After a while, you
don't
abandon
end.
them.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, I can't do this.
There's no story.
I need it to end.
No, and you know what's terrible about soap operas? I used to watch soap operas. You come home and then like your grandmother's watching soap operas. So now all of a sudden I'm like 12 watching Days of Our Lives. Like why?
First
why
of all,
am I so into General
and
Hospital right now?
And they're
I'm
still
13.
There.
Whatever. But yeah, 12 years later,
They're still in the same predicament.
I'm like, Sonny's still out here?
Yeah.
I could not
Y'all still
believe
beefing?
it. I could not believe it. I was like,
I can't believe it.
Characters.
Or
Marlena and
people
John ain't
died,
together
and then
still.
it turns out they didn't die.
Garbage.
Trash.
Absolutely.
Trash. There's never a real resolution on a soap opera.
So every storyteller, every content person, when they get on that 90-second video, when they get on that 20-minute video, whatever, need to know how they're going to end it. And not just, I'm going to end it genuinely. They need to know the sentence that they're going to use to close this thing out. Because how do you know where you're going?
Right.
How do you know where you're driving?
Right.
How do you know what details to include? If you're telling me, literally happened today, if you're telling me how to get to your house, you had to know where I was and I had to know where I was driving to.
So true.
Exactly.
So same way, you have to know where you're driving to, because I can tell every time a person starts a story, I immediately know they have no idea where they're ending it. Immediately. I'm just like, they have no idea where they're going to end this.
Wow.
So, and once your audience figures that out.
And that's what I was going to say. That's not good.
No, once the audience they don't know.
They
Because,
have no
but
idea.
what happens is, guys, is that you may know what you're talking about. But if I said to Taina right now, drive to my house, I live off a blank road. She may be able to get there eventually, but it's going to take her a long time, and she's going to get lost, right?
And who says I have that kind of time?
I need to just go straight there.
Sometimes that's why people scroll away from your stuff.
But here's the thing. You're a competent driver. You drive all the time. But you not getting to my house makes you look like you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly.
You not getting to the ending of your content creation makes you look like you're not the expert.
Right.
Because you don't know how you're going to end it.
Exactly.
And with content, you should not only tell them how to get there, but the best way.
Yes. Absolutely.
Like, you should give them the cheat code.
Yes.
So like she can tell you how to get to her house by avoiding the traffic. Like, don't take this road, take this road, and go like this. That's content, and essentially, it's helping people to not only get to their goal, but to get there quicker and to avoid the pitfalls. Because you have gone through the pitfalls ahead of them.
Exactly. If I had hit you up this morning, you could have told me. Don't go on Slaughter. Take the highway, which you told me belatedly as I'm sitting in traffic on Slaughter. And I'm like, hey, I'm stuck. And he's like, you probably should have taken the highway.
Anyway.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good. Listen, I want to land here. There's a couple of quotes I just want to get to you guys is, just knee-jerk reaction to these by Tahir Shah. This one says, stories are a communal currency of humanity. I like that one. Here's one from Jean-Luc Godard. Sometimes reality is too complex. Stories give it form.
Oh, I love that. That's so true.
Yeah. I got two more. Joseph Campbell says, people forget facts,
but
they remember stories.
They remember stories. That is the magic name, Joseph Campbell.
Come on with it.
Yeah.
Last one. Stories are memory aids, instruction manuals, and moral compasses. That one is by Alex Kurtowski. And that was one of the ones that we started with, and it's right where we want to land. Because if you, man, I'm telling you, if people are scrolling away, if you're losing them, now if you've won the click, you've hooked them with the intro, right? And now you're in the midst of the actual meat of the content, and they are leaving. It's probably because you haven't figure out your authenticity. You haven't given them the inciting incident. You haven't given them some reason to buy in, and some of them can tell you don't know where you're going.
You don't know where you're going.
And because you don't know where you're going, I am getting off this train.
Exactly.
Yes.
So they're swiping away, and that is going to have an adverse effect on your content. And so some of the principles, some of the best practices, some of the hacks that were shared today, I hope will be meaningful for you, and we'll get you across the line. I'd love to hear your stories and the impact that this is having. So make sure you leave a comment below. Denita, just take a few seconds to tell people where they can find you, follow you, what you got going on.
All the things.
Yeah.
So I'm on Instagram at Denita Lachelle.
Yes.
Facebook, same. Right. Same.
Okay.
One of the things I love to do is to help people find their story.
I love it.
Like everyone has a story. Everyone is capable of writing their story.
I love it.
They are able to recall certain experiences the only way they can. My goal is just to pull that storyteller out of everyone.
Absolutely.
And so, find me on those platforms. I'm on LinkedIn, Denita Jones. Find me on those platforms and let me help you. Let me help you find your story.
Yeah. Any final words? Anything?
Authenticity. I'm just going to keep going back to it. Tell your story authentically.
Yeah. Tell your story authentically. Your story's your fingerprint. It's
yes.
No one else has it. And it's a cheat code. If you want to rise above the sea of sameness, you just put your story. Like the principles I teach for content creation, many others teach.
Yeah.
What makes it different is I put my story in there.
Right.
Diana puts her story in there. Denita puts her story in there. And when we put our story in there, you can't find it anywhere else. Go ahead.
One last thing.
Sure.
There might be someone out there who you feel like you want to start telling your story and you don't know where it's going to end, right? Like you haven't reached the pinnacle or like the end of it or whatever. And I just want to say lots of us enjoy stuff that has a to be continued.
I love that.
But it's an intentional, like, we're not there yet, but stick with me.
Yeah.
We're going to get there. I say that because as I'm someone who creates lifestyle content, it's literally about my life and what's happening. And sometimes we're not at the resolution. Like the thing hasn't happened yet, and a lot of people are along for the ride, not because I have won the thing. I haven't made all the money. My company hasn't like reached its heights yet. Right. But they're like, we like that that's why I keep talking about authenticity. We like that she's being honest with us about that. Hey guys, this is where I'm at right now. I am currently not taking coaching clients because I feel burnt out. Do you feel burnt out? This is where I am with it. Stick with me. Let's figure this out together, right? So you don't have to, it doesn't have to be like tied up in a perfect bow. It just does have to be intentional though. And there does have to be a place where you're taking people. And I just wanted to say that.
The part of your story that you shared is one piece.
Yeah, correct.
But your story's not done. But you still gave us a resolution
to that chapter or that.
Exactly.
You just said it. That's what I was going to say. The beauty of a very well written book is that, when you look at books that have been like, paraded around as some of the best ever written, the book is not just one series of a whole bunch of pages. There are chapters. Chapters are just tiny resolutions, right? So chapter 1, there's an ending to that chapter, even though the story is
still going. That's right.
And so that's what you have to consider is that, I don't know the ending to my story. Yes, but you know the ending to this chapter.
Yes.
And sometimes we're on those chapter journeys with you. Sometimes you can go back and say, oh, this was me. This was the ending to my specific chapters. Because let's be real, the ending of our life story is when we are no longer here.
That's true.
Right?
Agreed. Yeah.
But the important thing is that in order for us to be helpful to others is to show where our chapters have gone.
That's right.
And there's sometimes where you get additional context for what previous chapters have been in these current seasons of your life.
Because a good story builds off of the chapter before.
It's building.
Right? So building. that is what, just don't think about resolutions as a whole. Think about your chapter.
This chapter. That's it.
My God. You came to figure out how to get more people to watch your content, and you got some life lessons.
Exactly.
Well, listen, fam, this has been yet another episode of the How It All Werks podcast. And this is quite literally, story when in its truest form, when you infuse it with authenticity, with vulnerability, when you make it real, tangible, and you give people some clear takeaways, that's literally how it all works. And we hope that you'll join us next time for another episode.